Today is a great day because I am going to a book signing later. Yay! I'm going to the book event for the Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher, which is his new 9 to 12 kids book. It's his first full-length novel that he's written. It's been a while since my last book event. I think the last one that I went to was in April for Cassandra Clare for Lady Midnight. So a book event is long overdue. I'm going to this one on my own as well because I live in the north of England, in a part of the north of England that authors just don't seem to come to. So when I heard that he was doing an event not too far from me, I was gonna go anyway, even if it means being that person on their own. Yay me! So I thought I would bring you along in this adventure like I've done my other book signing videos. I'm hoping that I can film a fair amount. Apparently we're not allowed photos with Tom, so I might get somebody to film me meeting him. Who knows what the day has in store, but I will bring you along with me on this adventure. Also, I bought Replica by Lauren Oliver yesterday, and I want to read it, but I can't because I'm going to start reading the Christmasaurus tonight. So I'm in kind of a book lull period until I get the Christmasaurus later on. Now, and Tom was so lovely and nice. I got a Christmasaurus tote bag that has some crumpets in it because I think Warburton's must be sponsoring this book. They're giant crumpets as well. And I have the book finally, and it's so pretty, and it actually has a thing on the dust jacket. Look at that. Look how pretty it is. And then obviously he signed it as well, and he put, "To Charlotte with love, Tom." It was so lovely meeting him, but the event was so badly organised. The signing started at 5 o'clock and I was pretty much at the back of the queue. It took about half an hour to 45 minutes for me to actually get into the building because it was just a signing. They'd made it clear by this point that you were able to get personalisation, so your name and then their autograph, and we were going to be allowed photos as well. It wasn't as awkward and horrible as I thought it would be going on my own, because I ended up talking to this woman behind me who had her daughter with her, and they were McFly fans, so it was really nice having someone to actually talk to while doing all of this waiting. But it became apparent very quickly from the way that security were acting and the staff were acting that there was a problem. They kept coming up and checking the queue and disappearing again, and at one point this woman went over and started speaking to the security guard, and I don't know whether she was there with someone from the event or what, but he started to have a rant while he was stood literally a few feet from the queue, and he started saying things like, Tom's a really lovely guy, but he's just taking too long. He's spending too much time talking to the children rather than just signing the books. He just keeps having long conversations with the children. You heard that right. He blamed the reason that the queue was taking so long on children. And this little girl behind me in the queue got upset because she heard him say that, and she thought it meant that these Christmas cards that she'd got to give to Tom, she now wasn't going to be able to give them to him because she was going to take too long. So we kept hearing them complaining, and the staff were complaining because it hit 6 o'clock and the store was shut, and the signing was, he wasn't even halfway through the people at that point. So it was clear that they'd obviously thought for some reason that given the amount of people, they were still going to be able to get through everyone in an hour, which was never going to happen. For reference, I waited an hour and a half in total, and there was a good 30 to 40 people behind me in the queue. The staff were complaining that they weren't able to go home. You had this security guard blaming children for being the reason why the queue was taking so long, and it got to a point where they came through the queue and they started getting rid of the post-it notes in our books that had our name on. Because if you've never been to a book event before, they will stick a post-it note with your name written on the page that is being signed in the book. So you then hand it over to the author and they write your name in the book, and then they sign their signature as well. So they came and they got rid of our post-it notes, and they were like, sorry, but Tom is not doing personalizations anymore. The group of people in front, when she came back, asked her why it was that he wasn't doing that anymore. And it turned out that what had happened is, at the start of the signing, we'd just been given the post-it note and a Sharpie, told to write our names and pass it back. But what people had been doing is they'd been writing like little messages that they'd wanted him to write in the book, because some of them had got the book as Christmas presents for people and things like that. So what had happened is, people had been going up to him, he'd been writing their name, writing whatever the message was, signing the book, and then having a conversation with them. And because of that, apparently it was taking too long. So again, they blamed the people who were at the front of the queue for the reason why it was taking so long. But the problem was, and this was where I put my point across to them and got a little bit angry, was that you cannot blame your inability to hold this size event on the people who have paid £13 to come to this event, because we could have bought the book from anywhere, but the reason that we bought the book from this bookstore was because the event was being held there and you had to buy the book from there. And the staff were just so rude, and I made this point of, you can't blame us and take away things that you've promised us for the fact that you grossly underestimated that Tom Fletcher could not get through 200 to 300 people in an hour, which meant that you then had to stay longer than you expected. They came back about 5 minutes later and they'd torn up these post-it notes and they wrote the names on again. So we ended up getting our personalisation like that, so that you couldn't write an extra message on, it was just your name. And I was like, if I have paid £13 for this event, you can guarantee that I'm going to get the book, I'm going to get a photo with him, and I'm going to get a personalisation in my book. It seems only fair. It made me so mad, and in the future, if this ever happens again, I don't think I'm going to a WH Smith's signing, because it was just so badly organised, and it was just so rude of them to stand there and to actively say to us that we were causing the problem. Nothing at this event was made clear. Post-it notes were handed out with pens and they didn't even tell you what to do with them. The only reason that I knew what to do with them was because I have been to book signings before. So I was having to tell people in the queue why they'd been handed a post-it note and a pen. What they said was true about people writing extra long messages. They could have either told people in the queue that you can only have your name signed, or they could have said to Tom, if people have written messages, ignore them, only write the name of the person. That would have solved the problem so much more. It made me so angry that, you know, they locked us in the store and then complained that it was taking too long. But why release 100 extra tickets for an event if you don't even know if you're able to handle the capacity of people that were going to be coming anyway? But then I met Tom and he was so nice, and I had about 2 minutes with him, and that 2 minutes made up for the stress and anger that I experienced in the previous hour and a half of this event. So I just kept it brief, and I thanked him for his band McFly, and I told him the story of my friend Georgia who lives down south and how we became friends because of his music. I basically thanked him for his music existing because it meant that I have this best friend that I wouldn't have had without them, and he got really happy about that and said he loves hearing stories about people who've met through him and his bandmates and his music and things like that. And then he gave me a hug, so all of my stress just went away in that hug. So it was a very mixed event, and I'm just so livid at how rude the security and the staff were, because they didn't need to be. And at one point they were even talking about stopping people getting photographs with him in the hopes that it would make the queue move a bit quicker. But it was an absolute disaster in terms of organisation. But thankfully Tom made up for it, and it's made this video a little bit more exciting. So I will leave a little montage of the pictures that I got with him at the end of this video, and I will be back soon with a new video, hopefully a lot less dramatic than this. Bye!